My uncle was a Navy SEAL and refused to go near the ocean after retirement. He finally told me what pulled his team underwater. My uncle Rick moved to Arizona 3 years after leaving the Navy. Not Phoenix or Tucson where most people go. He chose a town called Wilcox, population 3,500, right in the middle of the desert, 200 miles from the nearest coastline. When I asked why he picked the driest place in America, he said he liked the heat, but I noticed he wouldn't even drive to California to visit family, wouldn't go near swimming pools, refused to take baths, only showers, and kept the bathroom door open while he showered. My dad said Rick had always been intense, even as a kid. Joined the Navy at 18, made it through Bud's S training on his first try, deployed 4 times to the Middle East. He came back different after his last deployment in 2019, quieter, checking windows constantly, sleeping with every light in the house on. I visited him last month for his 40th birthday. The house was exactly what you'd expect for a single guy living alone. Pizza boxes, empty beer cans, TV, always playing news channels on mute. But there were strange things too. Every window had blackout curtains, even though he lived miles from any neighbors. He had 7 phones lined up on his kitchen counter, all different models, none of them connected to service. The first night I was there, I woke up around 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. Rick's bedroom door was open, and his bed was empty. I found him sitting in his truck in the driveway, windows up, engine off, just staring at the dark sky. When I knocked on the window, he jumped so hard he hit his head on the roof. He said he couldn't sleep inside sometimes, that he needed to be able to see what was coming. I asked what was coming, and he just shook his head and told me to go back to bed. The next morning, his hands were shaking so bad he could barely hold his coffee mug. I asked if he was okay, and he said he'd been having the dreams again. Dreams about water, about pressure, about something grabbing his ankle and pulling him down into darkness that went on forever. He told me his therapist at the VA said it was normal PTSD from combat diving operations, that lots of SEALs had anxiety about water after retirement, but Rick said his therapist was wrong, that what happened to his team wasn't in any combat report, that the Navy had classified the whole mission and made everyone who survived sign NDAs with 20-year prison sentences attached. I thought he was being paranoid until he showed me his discharge papers. They were dated March 2019, but there was a 6-month gap in his service record with no explanation, just blank space where his final deployment should have been listed. He said those 6 months were when it happened, when his team got pulled under during a training exercise off the coast of Indonesia. They'd been practicing underwater demolition, standard stuff they'd done hundreds of times. 8 SEALs, 60 feet down, visibility maybe 10 feet in the murky water. Rick said the ocean floor in that area was supposed to be sandy and flat, but when they reached the bottom, they found something else. Something that looked like a massive circular grate, maybe 30 feet across, made of metal that didn't match anything in their equipment database. The team leader radioed back to the ship asking for guidance. While they waited for a response, Rick noticed the grate was vibrating, sending out pulses he could feel in his bones even through his wetsuit. Then the water around them started moving, not like a current, but like something was creating suction from below the grate. 2 of his teammates got pulled against the metal bars. They were trying to swim away, but the pull was too strong. Rick grabbed onto a rock formation and watched as the grate started to open, sections of it rotating inward like the iris of a camera, and that's when he saw what was underneath. What actually grabbed his teammates and dragged them down into the opening. He stopped talking then. His face had gone completely white, and his hands were shaking worse than before. I asked what he saw, and he looked at me with eyes that had seen something no training could prepare him for, because what he told me next changed everything I thought I knew about the ocean. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. Tentacles, Rick finally says, his voice cracking. Massive tentacles, like nothing I've ever seen before. Not like an octopus or squid, something else entirely. They shot up through the opening, grabbed Martinez and Dawson, and yanked them down so fast they didn't even have time to scream. I stare at him, trying to process what he's saying. The kitchen light flickers overhead, casting strange shadows across his face. The tentacles were wrong, he continues, rubbing his hands together compulsively. Segmented like insect legs, but fluid like water itself, and there were eyes down there, watching us. These enormous blue-green eyes glowing in the darkness beneath the grate. Not animal eyes, intelligent, calculating. Rick stands abruptly, pacing the small kitchen, checking the blackout curtains for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. The team leader, Captain Wilson, he was still on comms with the ship when it happened. I could hear him screaming for extraction, emergency protocols, anything. The ship ordered immediate evacuation. Get topside now, abandon equipment if necessary. But Wilson wouldn't leave without trying to help Martinez and Dawson. Rick's breathing becomes shallow, and he presses his palms flat against the counter to steady himself. We all activated our emergency beacons. Standard protocol. 4 of us left, me, Wilson, Ramirez, and Chen. We started swimming up, but the water, it was fighting us. Currents that shouldn't exist at that depth were pulling us back toward the grate, and then he stops, swallowing hard. Then what? I ask, though part of me doesn't want to know. Then it got Chen. A tentacle shot up from below, wrapped around his ankle, and pulled. His regulator was ripped from his mouth. I can still see his face, the pure terror as he was dragged down. He was reaching for me, and I couldn't. Rick's voice breaks completely. The silence hangs between us for a long moment before he continues. The ship deployed an emergency rescue sub. Those things aren't supposed to descend below 100 feet in those conditions, but they came for us anyway. We could see its lights cutting through the water above. We were maybe 30 feet from reaching it when something massive hit it from below. The whole sub shuddered, metal groaning. Then it hit again, harder. Rick walks to the refrigerator, pulls out a beer, but doesn't open it, just holds it against his forehead, eyes closed. We made it inside the rescue sub, barely. The pilot was screaming about pressure warnings, hull integrity compromised. Something was following us, hitting the sub repeatedly as we ascended. The sound like nothing I've ever heard. Metal scraping against metal, but also this vibration. The same vibration I felt near the grate. It was in my teeth, my bones. He finally cracks open the beer, takes a long pull. When we surfaced, there was a security team waiting. Not regular Navy, these guys wore unmarked black uniforms. They separated us immediately. I didn't see Wilson or Ramirez again for 3 days. They put me in isolation on the ship, debriefed me for 48 hours straight. Same questions over and over. What did I see? Could I describe the structure? Did the creatures communicate with us? Did I touch anything down there? Rick sets the beer down, untouched after that first sip. They showed me photographs from the 1,940 seconds. Similar structures found in the South Pacific during World War II. Reports from submarine crews about massive unidentified objects tracking them underwater. Then files from the 60 seconds, 70 seconds, 80 seconds, all classified, all describing encounters with the same things. He looks at me directly for the first time since he started talking. They made us sign NDAs, threatened us with treason charges if we ever spoke about it. They gave Wilson and me medical discharges. Ramirez, they kept him, said he needed extended observation for potential contamination. I haven't heard from him since. Rick walks over to the row of phones on the counter, picks one up. The nightmares started the first night after we surfaced. But they're not just nightmares, they're something else. I see things I couldn't possibly know. Underwater cities made of some material that looks like coral but isn't. Structures that defy physics. And beings not quite solid, not quite liquid, moving through these vast spaces, communicating through patterns of light and vibration. He puts the phone down carefully, precisely aligning it with the others. Sometimes in the dreams, I'm swimming through their city, but I'm not me anymore. I'm changing, and they're watching me, waiting for the transformation to complete. They're patient. They've been down there for millions of years. They can wait a little longer for me. Rick turns to the window, peering through a tiny gap in the curtains at the desert night. That's why I came to Arizona, as far from the ocean as I could get. But it doesn't matter. Water is everywhere in the air, in our bodies. They can find me through it. They're looking for me. For all of us who saw them. That's what these are for. He gestures at the phones. One for each of us who was down there, even the ones who didn't make it back. I keep them ready, in case they try to make contact. He turns back to me, his face haggard in the harsh kitchen light. You think I'm crazy? That's okay. The therapists at the VA think so too. PTSD, they say. Traumatic hallucinations. But I know what I saw, and now you know too. He sits down heavily at the kitchen table. I shouldn't have told you. They'll be watching you now too. I'm sorry. Outside, a desert wind picks up, whistling through the eaves of the house. For just a moment, it sounds like something calling from very far away. Rick's head snaps up, eyes wide with recognition and fear. They're getting closer, he whispers. 3 years pass like a fever dream. I visit Rick when I can, watching him retreat further into isolation with each passing month. The blackout curtains become permanent fixtures. The phones remain untouched on the counter, a silent memorial to the teammates he lost beneath the waves. Until today, I'm helping Rick replace a broken pipe under his kitchen sink when his face goes slack. One of the phones, the third from the left, is vibrating against the countertop. The screen glows blue in the dimly lit kitchen. That's Martinez's phone, Rick whispers, his voice barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. Martinez has been dead for 3 years. I slide out from under the sink, watching as Rick approaches the phone like it might explode. His hands shake violently as he picks it up. It's a text, he says, swallowing hard. Coordinates, and a message. I move beside him, reading over his shoulder. 35 decourse 12 18.4 N1112 34 57.2 W. Below the coordinates, 3 words. They're waking up. Rick drops the phone like it's burning his skin. This isn't possible. Martinez was pulled down. I saw it happen. Could someone else have his phone? I ask, trying to sound rational despite the cold dread spreading through my chest. No, Rick says firmly. These phones were issued to us by the Navy. Special encryption. Nobody else could access them. He paces the kitchen, running his hands through his hair. And those coordinates, they're in Arizona, northern Arizona. I pick up the phone, studying the message. We should check it out. Rick's head snaps toward me. Are you insane? This is exactly what they want, to lure us out. Who's they? Rick? The creatures? The government? Your dead teammates? I press, frustration building. You've been hiding in this house for 3 years. Maybe it's time to face whatever this is. For a moment, I think he'll refuse. Then his shoulders slump. There's something I haven't shown you. He leads me to his bedroom, kneels beside the bed, and pulls out a metal lockbox. His fingers tremble as he enters the combination. Inside lies a stack of manila folders with classified stamped across them in faded red ink. I wasn't supposed to keep these, he admits. I could be court-martialed, or worse. I sit beside him on the floor as he opens the first folder. Inside are black and white photographs dated 1943. They show what appears to be a massive underwater structure photographed from a submarine periscope. The next folder contains reports from 1,958 accounts from Navy divers describing sentient aquatic entities near the Mariana Trench. There have been encounters for decades, Rick explains, spreading the documents across the floor. World War II submarine crews reported being followed by massive unidentified objects. Sonar operators picking up impossible readings, things moving faster and deeper than anything should be able to. The Navy's been tracking these things since before we had nuclear submarines. He pulls out a map marked with red dots across the world's oceans. These are confirmed sightings. Notice anything? I study the pattern. They're all near underwater trenches or deep sea formations. Exactly. Whatever they are, they live in the deepest parts of the ocean. Or at least, they did. Rick taps the coordinates from the text. This location is hundreds of miles from any ocean. As if on cue, Rick's personal phone rings. He stares at the caller ID, face draining of color. It's Commander Vaughn, your former CO? Rick nods, answering on speakerphone. Sir, cut the bullshit, petty officer, a gruff voice barks. You accessed the file. You know that triggers an alert. Rick's eyes widen. I didn't. The phones are monitored, Rick. Always have been. You think we'd just let you walk away with classified tech? The commander's voice drops lower. Stop digging. Whatever you think you found, whatever you're planning, drop it. For your own safety. Martinez's phone received a message, Rick says. Coordinates in Arizona. What's there, sir? A long pause follows. Nothing that concerns you anymore. Stay home. Lock your doors. This conversation never happened. The line goes dead. Rick stares at the phone. They're still watching us. I walk to the bathroom, needing a moment to process everything. As I turn on the faucet to splash water on my face, something catches my eye. The water isn't flowing normally. It's swirling in unnatural patterns, almost forming shapes. For a split second, I swear I see a face in the ripples, watching me with intelligent alien eyes. I stumble backward, shutting off the water. Rick! I call out, my voice shaking. Something's wrong with your water! He appears in the doorway, face ashen. What did you see? Faces. In the water. Like they were looking at me. Rick grabs my arm, pulling me away from the sink. It's happening again. They're reaching out through the water. They can do that. Use water as a conduit. His breathing becomes erratic. We need to leave. Now, as we rush toward the front door, I notice something alarming. Thin streams of water are seeping under the doors, pooling on the floor in geometric patterns that no water should naturally form. Rick grabs a backpack from the closet, stuffing it with the classified files and Martinez's phone. They know we're looking. They're watching us. Who, Rick? The government or the creatures? His eyes meet mine, wild with fear and something else, a terrible certainty. Both. They've always been working together. That's what this is all about. Outside, the Arizona sun beats down mercilessly as we climb into my car. Rick's paranoia is contagious, making me check the rearview mirror every few seconds. There's one person who might help us, Rick says suddenly. Mitchell. He was on the extraction sub with me. Last I heard, he moved to Sedona. Said something about the energy vortexes there protecting him. From what? Rick's fingers tap nervously against the dashboard. From becoming like them. As we drive away from Rick's house, I can't shake the feeling that we're being followed not by cars or helicopters, but by something more elemental. In every puddle we pass, every water bottle in the car, I feel eyes watching, waiting. The coordinates, I say, trying to focus on something concrete. What do you think is there? Rick stares out the window at the passing desert. Another gate. They're all over, hidden underwater. But if there's one in Arizona, he doesn't finish the thought. He doesn't need to. If these creatures have found a way to reach inland, far from their ocean depths, nowhere is safe anymore. My phone pings with a notification. A weather alert. Unexpected flash flooding predicted for northern Arizona, centered exactly on the coordinates from Martinez's message. Drive faster, Rick whispers, eyes fixed on the horizon. They're already rising. The drive to Sedona takes us 3 hours, winding through Arizona's changing landscape. Rick sits rigid in the passenger seat, eyes constantly scanning the horizon, flinching every time we cross a small stream or irrigation canal. His hands never stop moving, tapping, scratching, clenching as though trying to shed something invisible crawling beneath his skin. Mitchell lives off-grid, Rick explains as we turn onto a dirt road that stretches into the desert. After what happened, he couldn't handle being around people. Said they looked wrong to him now. The road narrows until it's barely more than a path, leading to a small adobe house nestled against red rock formations. Solar panels glint on the roof, and a large water catchment system dominates one side of the property. No power lines, no neighbors for miles. Wait, Rick says, grabbing my arm as I reach for the door handle. Let me go first. Mitchell can be unpredictable. We approach the house slowly. Rick calls out before we reach the porch. Mitchell, it's Rick Saunders from Team 6. The door cracks open, revealing a sliver of a man's face. Rick? The voice sounds parched, unused. What the hell are you doing here? Martinez's phone received a message. We need to talk. The door opens wider. Mitchell is tall and gaunt, his skin unnaturally pale for someone living in the desert. He wears long sleeves and gloves despite the heat, and dark sunglasses obscure his eyes. His head moves in small bird-like jerks as he surveys the landscape behind us. Get inside, quickly. The interior of Mitchell's house is sparse but meticulously organized. Maps cover one wall, marked with red pins and string connecting various locations. Most are underwater sites, the Mariana Trench, the Java Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench. I notice the coordinates from Martinez's text message are marked prominently. You already know about this location, I say, pointing to the pin. Mitchell nods, removing his sunglasses. His eyes are bloodshot, with an unusual bluish tint to the whites. They've been active there for months. Small tremors, water table changes. The locals think it's just drought conditions. Rick pulls out the classified files and spreads them across Mitchell's kitchen table. I kept these. Thought they might be important someday. Mitchell examines the documents, nodding. Smart. They tried to erase everything after the incident. Digital records, physical files, even altered satellite imagery of the area. He points to one of the photographs. This is from 1943. First documented contact during Pacific operations. What exactly are they? I ask. Rick mentioned creatures. But not creatures, Mitchell interrupts. That implies something animal, instinctual. They're an ancient race, predating humans by millions of years. Highly intelligent, technologically advanced in ways we can't comprehend. He pulls up his sleeve, revealing his forearm. I stifle a gasp. His skin is mottled with bluish-green patterns that seem to shift slightly, like oil on water. The veins beneath pulse with an unnatural rhythm. They communicate telepathically, primarily through water molecules, Mitchell continues. Water is their medium, their internet, their telephone system, their transportation network. Every drop of water on this planet is connected to them in some way. Rick stares at Mitchell's arm. It's spreading. Mitchell nods grimly, pulling his sleeve down. Started 3 months after we got back. The doctors called it a rare skin condition, gave me creams, antibiotics. Nothing worked. He laughs bitterly. How could it? I'm becoming one of them. What do you mean? I ask, my mouth suddenly dry. Mitchell walks to his refrigerator, pulling out 3 bottles of water. He hesitates, then puts them back, grabbing canned sodas instead. They don't just communicate through water, they can alter it, manipulate it at the molecular level. And when humans are exposed directly to them, as we were, he trails off. The transformation is gradual. First the dreams, then physical changes. The government knows. They've known since 1958. 1958? Rick repeats. Mitchell nods. Operation Deep Watch, Navy expedition to the Marianas. They made contact, established communication. By 1960, they had a treaty. A treaty? I can't keep the disbelief from my voice. Territorial agreements. We stay out of certain underwater zones. They provide technological advances. You think the microprocessor revolution happened by accident? Fiber optics? Certain medical breakthroughs? All reverse engineered from their tech. Rick slams his fist on the table. So what happened to our team? Why did they attack us? We violated the treaty, Mitchell says simply. That structure we found wasn't meant to be discovered. It was a gateway, one of many they've built along the ocean floor. Your team stumbled into restricted territory. military. And the government just let them take our teammates? Rick's voice cracks. The treaty supersedes individual lives. Always has. Mitchell moves to the window, peering through the blinds. Your visit here has been noticed. They're tracking us through the water molecules in our bodies. Who's tracking us? I ask. Both sides. The creatures and their human collaborators. Mitchell's head jerks toward the window. They're here. I join him at the window. In the distance, dust clouds rise from the desert floor. Vehicles approaching. Government cleanup team, Mitchell says grimly. Black Ops division that manages the treaty enforcement. They call themselves Tidal. Rick grabs the classified files, shoving them back into his backpack. We need to leave. Now. Mitchell shakes his head. Too late for that. He walks to a cabinet, pulls out a metal box, and removes a small device that looks like a modified flash drive. Take this. It contains everything the treaty terms, coordinates of all known gateways, communication protocols, evidence that can't be denied. He presses it into my hand. The Arizona site is just the beginning. They're preparing for something bigger. The phones, their beacons, each one corresponds to a gateway location. The sound of vehicles grows louder. Mitchell moves to the back door. There's an old mining tunnel behind the house. It leads to a ravine where you can access the road 2 miles south. I'll buy you time. They'll kill you, Rick says. Mitchell's face twists into something between a smile and a grimace. No, they won't. They need me. I'm too far along in the transformation. They want to study me. He rolls up both sleeves, revealing arms completely covered in the shifting blue-green patterns. I'm more them than human now anyway. Before we can argue, the sound of car doors slamming reaches us. Mitchell pushes us toward the back door. Go. Find the journalist Eliza Weiss at the Arizona Republic. She's been investigating water anomalies for years. She'll help you. As we slip out the back door, I glance back to see Mitchell removing his gloves, revealing hands that seem almost translucent, with webs beginning to form between the fingers. The water remembers, he calls after us. It always remembers. Rick and I sprint toward the mining tunnel as shouting erupts from the front of the house. I hear Mitchell's voice, unnaturally amplified. I've been waiting for you. Come see what I'm becoming. A flash of blue light illuminates the interior of the house, followed by screams that don't sound entirely human. We don't look back as we plunge into the darkness of the tunnel, the taste of salt and fear heavy on our tongues. The drive back from Mitchell's feels like a nightmare. Every puddle we pass, every irrigation ditch, every water bottle in the car, they all feel like eyes watching us. Rick keeps scratching at his arms through his shirt sleeves, a constant nervous motion that's driving me crazy. You need to stop that, I finally say as we pull into a roadside motel. You're going to make yourself bleed. Rick pulls up his sleeve, and my stomach drops. Blue patterns have begun forming on his skin, faint but unmistakable. The same markings I saw on Mitchell. It's starting, he whispers, a tremor in his voice. Just like Mitchell, we check into the motel under false names, paying cash. Rick immediately draws the curtains and sits on the bed, staring at the patterns on his arm. They seem to shift slightly under the fluorescent light, like oil on water. We need to check those phones, I say, trying to focus on something concrete. Mitchell said they correspond to gateway locations. Rick nods mechanically and pulls the 7 phones from his backpack. He lines them up on the bed, just like they were on his kitchen counter. Martinez, Dawson, Chen, Wilson, Ramirez, Mitchell, and mine, he says, pointing to each in turn. I pick up Martinez's phone, the one that received the message with the coordinates. Let's check the location data on these. Rick takes Chen's phone and powers it on. Each phone has GPS tracking disabled, but they all have saved locations. He navigates through the settings, his hands shaking. Coordinates, 7 different sets. I grab the motel notepad and start writing them down as Rick reads them off. When we're finished, I stare at the list. These are all over the world. Indonesia, Mariana Trench, Puerto Rico, Arctic Circle, Mediterranean, Gulf of Mexico, and Arizona, Rick finishes. The coordinates we already have. Mitchell said these are gateway locations, entrances to their world. Rick nods, his breathing becoming more labored. The underwater gates. But Arizona is landlocked. How could there be a gate there? Groundwater, I suggest. Underground rivers or aquifers. Water doesn't have to be visible to be present. Rick suddenly grabs his own phone, which has begun vibrating. The screen glows with an incoming message. No number, no identification, just text. The transformation cannot be stopped. Return to water. He drops the phone like it's burning him. They know. They're talking to me directly now. I pick up the phone carefully. Who's sending this? The government? The creatures? Does it matter? Rick's voice cracks. They're connected, working together. The treaty, Mitchell mentioned. He stands abruptly and walks to the bathroom mirror, pulling his shirt off entirely. The blue patterns have spread across his chest, faint but growing more visible by the hour. His skin has a strange translucent quality in certain areas, particularly along his ribs. I need you to record something, he says suddenly, turning to me. While I'm still me. I take out my phone and open the camera app. Rick sits on the edge of the bed, facing me directly. His eyes have developed a slight bluish tint around the irises. My name is Richard Saunders, former Navy SEAL, Team 6. In 2019, during an underwater demolition mission near Indonesia, my team discovered a structure on the ocean floor. What happened next has been classified by the US government, but the world needs to know. He describes everything in detail, the circular grate, the vibration, the massive tentacles that grabbed his teammates, the glowing eyes beneath the water. His voice remains steady even as his hands tremble. These beings have existed in our oceans for millions of years. They've made contact with our governments, established treaties, exchanged territory for technology, but something has changed. They're activating gateways around the world, preparing for what they call the awakening. Rick pauses, wincing as he scratches at the blue patterns on his chest. The transformation happens to anyone who has direct contact with them. It starts with dreams, then physical changes. Mitchell was further along than me. I don't have much time left. He holds up Martinez's phone. These coordinates mark gateway locations, 7 points around the world where they're preparing to emerge. The Arizona location is just the first. Water is their medium. They can communicate through it, travel through it, manipulate it at the molecular level. As he speaks, I notice something alarming. The bathroom faucet has begun dripping, though neither of us turned it on. The water doesn't fall normally. It beads on the edge of the faucet, forming shapes that look almost like tiny faces before dropping into the sink. They're here, Rick whispers, seeing seeing my expression change. Keep recording. People need to know. He turns back to the camera. If you're near water when the gateways open, you'll be vulnerable to their influence. They can reach through any water source, oceans, lakes, rivers, even the water in your own body. They're ancient, patient, and they view humans as a temporary inconvenience on a planet they've inhabited far longer than we have. The dripping from the faucet increases, forming a small puddle in the sink that swirls in unnatural patterns. Rick's breathing becomes more labored, and he clutches his chest. I need to finish, he gasps. The phones are beacons, activated by their signal. The government knows they've always known. Operation Deep Watch in 1958 established first contact. The treaty gave them underwater territories in exchange for technological advancements. But the treaty is changing. They want more now. A sharp knock at the door makes us both jump. Rick motions for me to keep recording as he approaches the peephole. He looks through, then stumbles back, face pale. Government team, he whispers. Just like at Mitchell's. The knocking becomes pounding. A voice calls through the door. Mr. Saunders, we're here to help you. You're experiencing a medical emergency. Please open the door. Rick grabs the flash drive Mitchell gave us and shoves it into my hand, along with the notepad containing the coordinates. Find Eliza Weiss at the Arizona Republic. Show her everything. She'll know what to do. The pounding at the door intensifies. Mr. Saunders, we have authorization to enter. This is your final warning. Rick's skin has become more translucent, the blue patterns now pulsing visibly. To my horror, I can see something moving beneath his skin along his ribcage ridges, forming that look disturbingly like gill slits. Go, he urges, pushing me toward the bathroom window. They won't hurt me. They need me, like they needed Mitchell. I'm becoming one of them. As the door begins to splinter under the assault, Rick does something unexpected. He turns on all the faucets full blast, flooding the bathroom floor with water. Water remembers, he says, his voice suddenly different, deeper, resonant, with a strange vibrating quality. It always finds its way home. I squeeze through the bathroom window as the motel room door crashes open. Through the window, I see men in black tactical gear rushing in. Rick stands in the center of the room, water swirling around his feet in impossible patterns that defy gravity, climbing his legs like living tendrils. One of the agents raises what looks like a tranquilizer gun, but hesitates when he sees Rick's transformation. Rick's eyes now glow with the same blue-green light he described seeing under the water. You're too late, Rick says, his voice no longer entirely human. The awakening has begun. I drop to the ground outside and run, clutching the flash drive and my phone with the recording. Behind me, I hear shouting, then a strange rushing sound like a massive wave. I don't look back. I make it to my car and drive, heading toward Phoenix where the Arizona Republic's offices are located. My phone buzzes with an incoming text. It's from an unknown number, but I know immediately who it's from. Water always finds its way home. I am going to the source. Tell them before it's too late. That night, flash flooding is reported in Willcox, Arizona. The local news shows footage of a strange phenomenon. A man walking directly into a flooded irrigation canal, his skin glowing blue-green in the darkness, disappearing beneath the surface without a struggle. I upload Rick's final warning to 3 separate secure servers before they cut my internet access. I don't know how much longer I have before they find me, but Rick's story will be heard. The water remembers, and now, so will the world.